joined the FBI, you had very strong opinions about what the FBI was hiding regarding Jeffrey Epstein. In a September 2023 interview with Glenn Beck, you said the Black Book is under the, quote, direct control of the director of the FBI. In December 2023, you said, let us know who the pedophiles are. Even for a short time after becoming FBI director, in February of 2025, you tweeted, quote, there will be no cover-ups, no missing documents, no stone left unturned. In June, you told Joe Rogan, quote, we've reviewed all the information, we're gonna give you every single thing we have and can. But then suddenly in July, everything changed. You and Attorney General Pam Bondi released one video and said that there was nothing more to see. Your July memo says you uncovered more than 300 gigabytes of data and physical evidence, but that you had decided no further disclosure would be appropriate or warranted. That is a quote. I think what happened, Mr. Patel, is that suddenly you discovered that Donald Trump's name was all over these files.
Minutes ago, Pramila Jayapal asked Kash Patel one question, one simple question, and his answer may have just destroyed the FBI's entire Epstein defense. Are the victims of the Jeffrey Epstein trafficking ring credible? That's all she asked. Yes or no? And Kash Patel, the director of the Federal Bureau of Investigation, could not say yes. Watch his face when you see the footage. Watch his hands. Watch the way his jaw tightens as he realizes there is no safe answer. Because if he says yes, he has to explain why he hasn't met with them. And if he says no, he is calling rape survivors liars on live television. He chose to call them liars. If you're new to this channel, subscribe right now and hit the bell icon. This story is unfolding in real time and the implications are devastating. Let me take you inside that room. September 17th, 2025, House Judiciary Committee. The hearing had already been running for 4 hours. Patel had survived Adam Schiff. He had survived Jamie Raskin. He had survived Thomas Massie naming Jess Staley as an alleged Epstein client. He thought the worst was over. Then Pramila Jayapal got the microphone. Let me tell you about Pramila Jayapal. She came to America alone at 16 years old, from India. No family, no connections, just a dream. She earned her degree from Georgetown University. She earned her MBA from Northwestern. She founded One America, the largest immigrant advocacy organization in Washington state. She became the first South Asian American woman ever elected to the House of Representatives. She chaired the Congressional Progressive Caucus for 4 years. When Pramila Jayapal speaks, she is not performing for cameras. She is fighting for people who have no voice. And today she was fighting for the women Kash Patel refused to meet. Director Patel, she began, today in response to Mr. Massey's question, you appeared to say that the survivors were not credible. Patel started to interrupt. That's not at all what I said. Jayapal cut him off. Let me tell you about the survivors. She leaned forward. Her voice dropped. The room went silent. These are women who came to the Hill and testified that they were groomed and raped at the age of 14 and 16 years old. 14, 16. Let that sink in. 2 weeks earlier, on September 3rd, 10 Epstein survivors stood on the steps of the Capitol and told their stories publicly for the first time. They held photographs of themselves as children. They wept. They demanded accountability. Gina Lisa Jones, 14 years old when she met Epstein. Marina Lacerda, 14 years old. She was identified as minor victim 1 in Epstein's 2019 federal indictment. Courtney Wild, 14 years old when the abuse began. Haley Robson, 16 years old when she was trafficked. These women testified under oath. They cooperated with the FBI for years. Their testimony helped convict Ghislaine Maxwell on multiple counts of child sex trafficking. A federal jury found their accounts credible beyond a reasonable doubt. Maxwell is serving 20 years in prison because those women told the truth. And now Kash Patel was sitting in a congressional hearing suggesting their testimony was not credible. Jayapal pressed harder. They called to meet with the president. They called to meet with the FBI. They called to have people investigate their claims. Some of them have never testified before. She paused. If you are so interested in getting the public to submit any information, why have you not met with them? Silence. Watch his hands. They're pressing flat against the table now. Is the answer yes or no, that you have met with these women who were sexually abused and raped? Patel shifted. Ma'am, I'm commenting on the evidence we have. That wasn't a yes. We have routinely asked for people to come forward with more evidence and we will look at it. That wasn't a yes either. And the evidence that we have was the same evidence that the Biden and Obama Justice Departments had. Here it comes. And they determined, not me, they determined that that information was not credible. There it is. The FBI Director of the United States just blamed the previous administration for calling rape survivors not credible, and then he hid behind their decision. But here's what Patel didn't mention. The Southern District of New York was running an active investigation into Epstein's co-conspirators until January 2025. Nearly 50 survivors had provided information to prosecutors. That investigation was transferred to DOJ headquarters when Trump took office. Since then, according to Jamie Raskin's letter to Attorney General Bondi, the investigation into co-conspirators has inexplicably ceased. They didn't find the evidence not credible. They stopped looking. If you've watched this far, please like this video. I'm serious. The algorithm determines who sees this content based on engagement, and this information needs to reach more people. Write your thoughts in the comments. Do you believe Kash Patel should meet with these survivors? Jayapal wasn't finished. I have answered the question, Patel said. You just don't like the answer. I'm going to ask you again. Are the victims credible or not? I have answered the question. Are the victims credible? I'm the only FBI director that has welcomed new information in this case. Notice what he's doing. He's not answering. He's deflecting. Every time she asks the direct question, he pivots to process. He talks about what the FBI is doing. He never says whether the women who testified are telling the truth. Jayapal's voice rose. Are the victims of the Jeffrey Epstein horrific trafficking ring credible? Yes or no? Chairman Jim Jordan interrupted. The gentlewoman's time has expired. But Jayapal didn't stop. She stood up. She pounded her hand on the desk. Her voice echoed through the chamber. Are you going to continue to cover up for the rich and powerful men, including those that might be on this committee? Or are you going to allow them to testify? Those words, including those that might be on this committee. She said it out loud. What everyone was thinking. That the reason the files remained sealed, the reason the investigation stopped, the reason Patel won't meet with survivors is because the names inside those files would destroy powerful people. Maybe even people in that room. Jordan banged the gavel. The gentlewoman's time has expired. But the damage was done. Let me explain why this moment is so devastating. The women who testified on September 3rd are the same women whose testimony convicted Ghislaine Maxwell. Federal prosecutors put them on the witness stand. Defense attorneys cross-examined them for hours. A jury of 12 Americans found their accounts credible beyond a reasonable doubt. That's the highest standard of proof in the American legal system. And Kash Patel just told Congress their information was not credible. He can't have it both ways. Either these women are telling the truth, in which case Patel should be meeting with them and investigating their claims, or they're lying, in which case Maxwell was wrongly convicted and should be released. Which is it? Here's what the survivors said on September 3rd. Marina Lacerda. I was only 14 years old when I met Jeffrey. It was the summer of high school. I was working 3 jobs to try to support my mom and my sister when a friend told me I could make $300 to give an older guy a massage. It went from a dream job to the worst nightmare. I had no way out until he finally told me I was too old. Gina Lisa Jones. I had never been more scared in my life than I was that first time he hurt me. I remember crying the entire way home thinking about how I couldn't ever tell anyone what actually happened in that house. This guy was so rich and had so many pictures with so many famous people. No one would have ever believed me. Courtney Wild. The government violated our rights to protect Epstein. We deserve the truth. Haley Robson. The press made me out to be a predator when I was just a 16-year-old little girl abused by a powerful man. These women stood in front of the Capitol and begged to be heard. And Kash Patel won't even take their meeting. Thomas Massie asked him directly during the same hearing. Will you personally meet with them? The FBI and the professionals who are handling the cases will meet with anyone who has new information. Will you personally meet with them? The FBI professionals will. He said it twice. He will not meet with them personally. The director of the FBI, the man who went on podcasts demanding transparency before he took office, will not sit in a room with the women who survived Jeffrey Epstein's trafficking operation. Lisa Phillips, one of the survivors, announced at the September 3rd press conference what they would do next. Together as survivors, we will confidentially compile the names we all know who were regularly in the Epstein world. They're making their own list, because the FBI won't. Haley Robson added, we are the keys. We know the games. We know the players. The survivors know the names. They were there. They saw who came to the island. They saw who visited the mansion. They know who was in the room when they were 14 and 16 years old. And those names are apparently so dangerous that the entire federal government has decided to stop investigating. President Trump called the Epstein file effort a Democrat hoax on the same day survivors stood on the Capitol steps and wept. A hoax. That's what he called the testimony of women who were raped as children. And Kash Patel, when asked directly whether those women are credible, could not say yes. The discharge petition to force a vote on releasing the Epstein files is one signature away from success. The Arizona special election will likely provide that signature within days. When it does, the House will be forced to vote. The survivors are watching. They're holding photographs of themselves as children. They're asking one question: are we credible? Kash Patel had a chance to answer that question today. He chose to hide behind the previous administration. He chose to deflect with process. He chose to let Chairman Jordan cut off the woman demanding accountability. But Pramila Jayapal's question will not disappear. It is now part of the congressional record. And every day that Patel refuses to meet with the survivors, every day that the investigation remains frozen, every day that the files stay sealed, the question grows louder. Are the victims credible? The federal jury that convicted Ghislaine Maxwell said yes. The FBI director who controls the files won't answer. That silence tells you everything you need to know.